In today's episode, I am joined by Chris Yee from the Dice Tower, where we discuss travel-friendly board games, and we share our favorites. My name is Nick Murray, and you are listening to the Bitewing Games podcast. So, a very warm welcome to our listeners and to a very special guest. We have Chris Yee from the Dice Tower here joining me today. Chris, glad to have you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, you are one of the only listeners who has reached out to me and given me any amount of feedback, and you must have been sick of just listening to my voice, because it's been a while. Aside from starting the Bits with Joe, we started putting those episodes onto the Bitewing Game podcast as well. But aside from those episodes, it's been a long time since I've had somebody else on here. I've become a hermit, an audio hermit, I suppose.
Audio Hermit is the name of the music store I want to own when I grow up.
Audio Hermit. What does that even mean as a music store? I guess that's just finding your solitary zen, right, in musical form.
I just want to have grumpy customers always come in. There's too many people in this store. I only like vinyl.
Maybe what you can do is everybody has like their own giant box with just a little viewing window, and everybody just sidesteps through the store, and so you never have to see or interact with anyone, and you just get to focus on one record at a time as you shuffle your way along the aisles.
This sounds perfect for many people I know. So yes, I will steal your ideas post haste.
Perfect. Yeah, or they'll just go to the internet where they can be alone. And
let's ignore that.
There.
But yeah.
Yeah, you need a time machine, I guess, to start this music store as well. Anyways, today's topic is about travel-friendly board games. Now, Chris, it is quite fitting to have you here on our podcast, and I suppose for that one person who listens to my podcast but doesn't know what the Dice Tower is, maybe you should share a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a video editor and video producer for the Dice Tower, one of the largest YouTube websites for board game reviews and other board game content. So playthroughs, reviews, top 10 lists, all sorts of stuff, right? It's just, if there's a type of video, we probably make it. And I've been working there for about 4 years. Tom Vasel, the president of the company, started it, when YouTube started, basically. And before that, it was a podcast. And before that, it was written reviews on forums and Board Game Geek pages. So he's been at it for 22-plus years. And I've just been lucky enough to get hired on 4 years ago and, start my professional board gaming career through there.
I get a kick out of sometimes when I'm browsing Board Game Geek in the forums or reviews of really old games, when I come across a written review from Tom Vasel from like 2005 or something like that, just 20 years ago. And you're exactly right. He's been going at it for a long time. I've seen really old written reviews from Mike DeLisio as well. And so it's funny to see how a lot of you folks have been around for much longer than I've been, heavily into the hobby. And a lot of respect for what you guys do to build up the community. Although we made the very big mistake of starting to do things at Dice Tower West with demo tables and with a booth more recently, and that has opened the door for you to come in and sabotage our enjoyment of the show, and that's how we've gotten to know each other more. Is at Dice Tower West, and then I visited you guys more recently with our live playthroughs of Silos, Ego, and Orbit, which was a great time. So it's fun to get to know some of you guys a little bit better, and definitely an honor to have you on our podcast, our humble podcast here.
Oh, thanks, man. I've been listening to the show for the last little bit here and just kind of tearing through so much of it. I started with the bits and was like, I really should be. I've read some of your blog entries, and having them in podcast format's been great while driving. So I've listened to a lot of your voice lately. So
for better or worse,
to listen to mine. Yeah.
Yes. Now I get to share the load, as Samwise would say. So, yeah, let's talk about travel friendly board games. So, you do a lot of traveling. I imagine you end up packing games into your suitcase, either taking it to a convention or on a trip, or maybe bringing even more home from a convention. Um, so, in your mind, I guess, what do you consider a travel friendly game, and what do you appreciate about games that are travel friendly?
So we've been talking about this. Incidentally, we on the Dice Tower channel. By the time this goes up, there will either be an upcoming top 10 list, or will have just been a top 10 list about this topic of travel games, and just independent thoughts on covering the topic. So we were talking about this in office about obviously size and weight. How big of a box? How much room is it going to take in your luggage or your backpack or whatever you're traveling with? But then the other thing is kind of the shake test, right? Your travel games are probably going to get jostled if they're being thrown around by United Airlines. What is the hashtag? United Airlines breaks guitars, right?
I haven't heard of that one, but I believe it definitely.
Oh, as a guitarist, it breaks my heart to see the videos with that tag. As bags are just getting thrown around and thrown amok as they're getting loaded into the bottom of planes.
Actually, I saw the funniest video the other day on, I think it was on Reddit or Facebook or something, and it really shouldn't be noteworthy, but I guess it was, and it was just this recording of these bag handlers at the airport who were like very delicately and carefully placing luggage onto the conveyor belt, and like the caption was like, wow, this bag handler is just being so gentle with the bags, and everybody was just so amazed, and it's like, yep, that's not what we expect, is it? So it helps to have some durable or travel friendly games, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? They're going to pass the shake test because that guy's probably not the one handling your bag.
Yeah, from my experience, when I normally have to pack a board game, I am insulating it with layers of soft clothing inside the suitcase or whatever. And I've learned the hard way that if I cram too many games in a suitcase, then the suitcase gets squished, and then the boxes get squished. There's not enough cushion or give, so you need a lot of insulation that does have cushion or give. Or if it's a loose bag, I guess you need like a rubber band or something at least around the box so that thing just doesn't explode open and you end up with pieces everywhere.
That is one of my biggest travel nightmares, is the thought of just my precious copy of like Airlines Europe opening up and all those planes just flying all over the place. But thankfully it hasn't happened yet. But I've been traveling more with my pillow. I've been becoming an old person, right? Highly recommend it. Where if you use a hotel pillow, you go, oh, my neck, I slept funny, and therefore my whole spine is just broken for the next week.
Yeah.
So I've been traveling with my pillow, which is great insulation to pad around the board games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need a lot of space if it's a big pillow, though. I'm a big pillow kind of guy, so I hope that when I show up to the hotel, it's going to be decent enough for me to sleep on. But,
I end up cramming 3 of them on top of each other and it's still paper thin by the end of the night. I can't do that anymore. I don't know what happened to me. I used to be cool. I used to be with it. Now I'm like
sleeping on the floor, sleeping, not even getting a hotel room, right? And just sleeping at the airport in the chairs. And no, I appreciate a comfortable sleeping experience.
Exactly.
So.
And it's good for your travel games, right? Tying it back around. Bringing it back so we're not just rambling off topic for no reason.
No. Yeah, so travel games, and obviously this is a very relevant topic for us at Bitewing right now because we're less than a month at the time of this recording. We're less than a month away from launching our travel line of games on April 22nd. And this is definitely inspired by Trailblazers Travel Edition, one of 5, which is far too many, editions of Trailblazers, which has a clamshell case and a carabiner. And it's interesting, when that released, a lot of people were really excited about that. Some people were like, this is a dumb idea. I'm never going to play this card game on a picnic table or, on the grass or on a mountainside when I'm hiking because it's just not the game for that. And they're absolutely right. Although we have seen a few Instagrammers do those exact things, like literally play it on a picnic table or on a mountain and I guess it wasn't too breezy where they could make it work, and they found a flat rock and stuff. But yeah, it's cool to see, that people, even if they're not doing it in exotic places or unlikely places, that they're able to take a game like Trailblazers on the go very easily and kind of travel with it carefree with it, thanks to the clamshell case and carabiner. So just the success of that, and when noticing that, we thought, over time I realized, we should lean into this. Nobody else, I thought for sure somebody was going to steal this clamshell case idea after seeing, the relative success of Trailblazers and run with it. And nobody has, so we're going to do it. We're going to double down, and we're making different size and shape cases and different gaming experiences. Some of them can be played in exotic places, and others should be played on a flat surface always. But yeah, we're doing it. So
yeah, growing up, there were so many of those travel editions of games that came out, like Travel Trouble and Travel Sorry and whatnot. They were all magnetic and stuff. So,
yeah.
Have you thought about Travel Zuvaris for when the kids all in the back of the van want to magnetically move their animeeples up to the front of the star exhibit?
Yeah, and then the screaming and the fistfights break out when somebody betrays their promise, right? I could see it.
Yeah, exactly. You said that token was for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, the hard thing about those kinds of travel editions is I think they're quite expensive to make. You need like very specific plastic or like dual layer trays, and you need magnets, and you need plastic typically, and it just makes the production costs go way up. And if you are the Asmodees of the world, then yeah, you can do that. You can make your Azul mini edition, and it has these fancy trays where things lock in and your score marker moves along a track and stuff. But that's a little harder to do when you're an indie publisher and you're not making, 50,000 games in a print run or whatever they're pumping out, So in our case, we're leaning more into the small, compact, and portable features of the travel-friendly games, and not so much playing them in a car, but more so just being able to take them on a trip and break them out in your hotel room on a small table, or at a family member's house, or at the cabin, or whatever, right? So that's kind of where we're leaning into, and obviously that peace of mind, which I recently, our family, we just had spring break. We took our kids to Palm Springs because that's a close drive away, and we did some swimming and activities and stuff, and it was nice to just be able to throw Gazebo and Gingham and Tic Tac Boom into my suitcase and just not worry about them at all. Like, they could get crushed and jostled and flipped upside down and all kinds of things, and the fact that it's a case that's crammed with components, and it's zipped closed, and it's a hard shell, it's like nothing's going to happen. And so I think people who do travel a lot and want a game on the go will appreciate that kind of case. I honestly, I thought about it recently, and I can't think of a better type of case. There are a lot of good travel type options like pouches and wallets and stuff, but the clamshell case and carabiner is just so convenient, and so I'm excited that we're really leaning into this with the travel line.
Well, and to speak to you guys' credit a little bit, one of the things I've always really loved about Bitewing is that you're very production focused, but you nail so many things very well. Thematic integration, your thematic touches, the production, the physical production quality, the actual gameplay, the development, everything. You guys do very well all around. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on your show and you're threatening to unleash the virus upon my computer if I don't say the lines.
Yes, we have a digital gun to his computer right now. So, and he cherishes his computer.
I do.
So that's Kyle's job. That's why he's not in the recording.
But yeah, just the thoughtfulness of the physical component, kind of the way that you're limiting yourself as well. For example, I don't know if this is a spoiler. I don't know if this is like a hot release that I'm about to say. You can edit it out if it's not known yet.
No,
but there's no cardboard board in Gazebo nor Gingham, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like stuff that can. Oh yeah, the case is fine. It's okay if the case gets squished, but if the stuff inside of it's fragile, that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Using cloth map, using just solid components like the Gazebo tiles and all that stuff, the Gingham ant meeples and stuff. Nothing in the game itself is fragile either, which I think is a smart way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I should note those pieces that you played with. You got to try both Gingham and Gazebo at Dice Tower West. Those are the deluxe pieces. We were thinking about making those the standard pieces for the game, but we realized like if we make the ants punch board and the dominoes punch board, that's going to bring the cost down by like $5 or $10, and just let more people in. And then if folks want those more travel friendly or sturdy pieces, they can upgrade them. So yeah, that option's there, but I have to be careful because I love to spoil our games with deluxe bits, and then that raises the production cost. And the more that we do this, and sell games, the more I realize, like, it's best if we make the game more affordable, more retailers pick it up, more people can just pick it up, and then if they really love it, then yeah, we'll have the deluxe bits available even after the Kickstarter and stuff. So, but yeah, I appreciate that. It's very nice of you to say overall.
Yeah. So even as you prove me wrong, very gently, very kindly. So yeah, the cardboard components being basic, that's good to know. But I mean, really thinking about it though, with all the upgraded ones, especially like the Gingham, not necessarily the gazebo tiles, you could take that sucker in a white water raft, right? If it gets splashed, there's no issues with it. The rest
I'd say
of
leave home the rule book, right? Hopefully you know the rules, and it's a simple game. You can read it once, and you don't really have to refer to it ever again. But yeah, leave home the rule book. But yeah, then go take it kayaking and send us a photo, and we'll be delighted to see it.
Yeah, I gotta say, none of the other games I've thought of for my list of like travel friendly games have included the hydro test.
The hydro test. Yeah, we haven't quite made the crossover into the PVC plastic rule book. That just feels like a step too far, But
just jump to Sapphire. It's okay.
Sapphire, just some metal plates or something. We'll do it old school style, right? No, but yeah, so travel friendly games, I'm about to myself post a list, and so you and I are competitors in the best travel friendly games list very soon here, and we're about to duke it out with some of our picks. So you can definitely dip back into stuff that you already picked, or if there's some that didn't quite make your list but do come to mind, you can share some of those as well. But are there any you want to lead off with as like, this is my go-to travel friendly game?
My go-to game lately to just bring with me everywhere, whether it's in my backpack, whether it's in my rucksack, whether it's in my luggage flying across the country and going and visiting my family out in Las Vegas, it's Trio.
Nice.
Trio is just, or Nana if you have that edition of the game.
Yep.
And one of the things, too, that I consider if I'm carrying around a game and I'm lugging it around is, can I play this with a decent amount of people, and can I play it with anybody?
Yep.
And for me, Trio is absolutely that game. There's almost no beating its approachability and its addictive potato chip like nature, where people say just one more is good. Yeah, let's do one more.
Yeah, it's basically Go Fish almost, but with a memory element, and it's funnier and it's just more satisfying, I think. So I love Trio. That's a fantastic game, great pick. And you touch on a really key element, especially for us as we're delving into a travel line with one of our Bitewing brands, is that of approachability. Like, what's the point of having a portable game if it's too complex or too polarizing or whatever to show to most people? So that's something we think about a lot, is like, okay, if we're adding a game to the travel line, it shouldn't just be something you can play anywhere, but it should be something you can play with anyone. Otherwise, it's just taking up space in your luggage or your bag or whatever, right?
Yep. Yeah, I fully agree with you there.
So Trio, great pick. I'll start things off with another equally charming and perhaps even smaller game, unless you have Nana, which comes in an even smaller package than Trio. But that is an Oink game, which is, I think, obviously all their games are very travel friendly unless you get into their bigger boxes, which I don't even have any of those, but that'd be like modern art and stuff, right? But Dro Polter is my first pick. I assume this is one that you've played by your reaction.
This is the one with just the random stuff in the palm of your hand, yeah?
Yeah. Yep. So you just have a few different knickknacks. Everybody has the same set of a few different knickknacks in their hand, like a little waffle wood thing, and a shell, a seashell looking thing, and a ring, and a couple other things. And every round you just flip over a card, and that's what the ghost, the Dropulter, is requesting as an offering. And everybody has in these pieces, just in one hand, all these pieces, and they can only use that one hand to try to drop the specific pieces. And if you drop the wrong ones, you have to start over. But if you're the first to drop all of them, you snatch up the ghost and you get a point. But of course, the best part of Dropulter is a point comes in the form of a bell that you add to your hand. And if you ever drop one of those jingling bells, everybody hears it, and you know right away that you just lost that point forever. So it's just a hilarious and delightful little dexterity game.
Yeah, what a delightful weird one too, where I've joked before that some games kind of feel like people said, well, I've got this box of leftover components, what game can I make from it? Mm-hmm. And sometimes that leads to just junk, and other times it leads to magic.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear what inspired the designer to make that kind of game, and I'd also be curious, like, what were the starting pieces, because I imagine Oink Games helped contribute some of the component ideas, right? You wonder, like, were the bells part of it to begin with, or were they just cubes, or was it all cubes? It's an interesting question.
My next pickup that I'm going to do then is, it's not a card game. There's a lot of games that on my list that could be card games, just very easily so, right? Mm. And there will be some more, but I'm going to pick one of the more offbeat, weird ones here called Draftosaurus. I don't know if you ever played this one.
I'm familiar with it, and actually, speaking of Trio, the publisher of Trio is doing a new version, or they just released a new version, right? Called Combo. Is that right?
Okay, so you're thinking
that's
of
Surfasaurus. Ah, shoot. Okay, no.
Yeah, you're
wrong
thinking
game.
of Surfasaurus Max. No, Draftosaurus is my favorite dinosaur park building game. And I know that's silly to say because this is like a very kid-friendly drafting game. You have a handful of 6 dinosaur meeples of different colors, different shapes, and you pick one to go into your park, and then you pass the remaining 5 along, and everyone's doing this simultaneously just like a card draft. But it's the fact that they're meeples is really charming. The fact that you line them up in the little areas of your zoo, of your dinosaur park, and they all score in the different sectors in different ways. It's just charming enough and just strategic enough that it's satisfying. It feels almost as simple as like a roll and write game. But having that tactile actual passing of the dinosaurs is so nice. Comes in a small box, plays up to 5 people. Another one of those games that anybody can play. I think that this is such an underrated gem of a drafting game.
Nice. That's right. This is a co-design from Antoine Bauza and several other designers. Antoine Bauza did 7 Wonders and Hanabi and quite a few major hits. So, yeah, this is one I still need to try.
Yeah, Théo Rivère is one of the designers. It has like 5 heavy hitter French designers, and you think it really took 5 guys to make this one game. But, it did, and they did great together. That's
great. Okay, my next pick is going to be, I'll go with shout out to our friends over at Allplay, who just released last year, their Tiny Box line. They're finally branching out from their 2 boxes that they're so adamant to withhold, despite the amount of components inside. They're finally branching out to a $10 box size version of these games that usually have up to 50 something cards in them and maybe a few tokens or dice, right? And they're cranking them out. I think last I talked to Joe, like, they're trying to put out, like, I don't know, 6 or so a year, maybe more. So it's cool to see this line take life. These games are smaller boxes than the Oink games and cheaper, much like half the price or less of Oink games. So it's cool to see more games in that kind of region of because a $10 game, honestly, if it's charming, if it sounds interesting, it's almost just a brainless buy for me, And the weird
easily, yeah.
the weird thing about these small games, the same thing with like wallet games that are super cheap is or micro games, is when they're cheap and they're quick and they're simple. I feel like I give these games a lot more leverage and a lot more forgiveness for the type of experience they provide, right? The bigger the box gets, the more critical I become of a game, I feel. It's like, do you justify taking up this much space on my shelf or in my game bag or whatever? So these tiny games, like even if they're kind of just whatever games, I get a kick out of trying them at the very least. So anyways, that's enough preamble. I'm going to go with Rainbow as my pick for a travel friendly game. This is just a very quick little bidding, almost ladder climbing game where players just they bid with a run or a set of cards, and then all those cards that they just bid with become the winnings of the next round. So just a cool little twist on that genre in general. But this game plays in like 15 minutes or less, and it's probably the strongest one, the most popular one too of their line. So if you want to sample the all play tiny box line, I'd say Rainbow. You can't miss there. But also a shout out to Panda Panda and Fairy, which are very dumb games, but very amusing with the right group. So,
You know, so Rainbow is my favorite of those, and it's in contention to be actually my favorite all-play game in general.
Nice.
I think that the nice little hidden layers of the card play there are so good. And it's one of my favorite shedding games because it basically mixes, like what you said, the bidding of like for sale with a card shedder. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I've seen some of the games that are coming out of this line this year and beyond, and yeah, I'm excited for what's coming. I think there's a lot of potential here for folks to find really quick, simple, portable games that are very affordable. So yeah, definitely appreciate that publishers are being mindful of that for us consumers.
Well, I appreciate it for a different reason that I'll just tease here and say, look out for some cool news about one of the all-play tiny box games in the future. And that's all I'll say about that, Lieutenant Dan.
Yes.
So I'm actually going to pick a different one is for my third pick here, Nick. Mm-hmm. For a very, very travel-friendly game, one that you barely need any surface to play on at all, I'm picking Fairy as my third pick. Also from that all-play tiny line.
Yep.
Because one of the gimmicks of this, the original version of it from Japan was called Instant Celebrity, and it was just a deck of cards, and you played a higher or lower game, basically. You flip over the first card, and it's the number 5. There's 18 cards in the deck, so you can everyone simultaneously says higher or lower. But the brilliant twist of it is that there's also 3 suits, so you could say the same suit, or there's 3 specialty cards, and so you could say those. So it was rethemed to fairy, and so those 3 special cards are the fairies, and you have to make these silly hand gestures: point up, point down, hold your hand flat out for equal suit, like same color suit, or you put your hands in this little like claw, this little fairy catching shape. If you think that the next card to flip over is going to be one of the 3 elusive fairies in the game. And on top of that, both Fairy and Instant Celebrity force you to hold the score card, your personal score tracker, between your thumb and your pointer finger on the number of points that you have. So you're holding this card and you're sliding your fingers around the card itself to keep track of your points. It is... Joe, president of All Play, calls this a game for just degenerate gamblers.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's so apt of a description, right? Where you're just constantly like, oh, okay, well, I was wrong before. It's got to be a fairy this time. It's a lot of points if I guess fairy correctly. So the fact that... Oh, sorry, what did you say?
I was going to say, Fairy's an experience. Like I think it plays 2 to 10 players or 3 to 10 players or something like that. And yeah, I think... as long as you have whoever's running the game, as long as they're high energy, like it's gonna be a good time, because everybody gets into it, and then when somebody catches a fairy and everybody just roars with appreciation or agony because they didn't do the same thing, it's delightful.
Yep, it is barely a game. You could say it's higher or lower, right, with like 2 twists, but it just shows off to me like how little of a game can generate such large of an experience.
Yeah, $20 or $25 in a bigger box, it wouldn't feel worthwhile, right? But at $10
Oh
and in that
no.
small of a box, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna throw this in my bag, and I almost always have it with me because when the mood is right and the group is right, it's gonna be just a riot of 10 minutes. So,
Yep, exactly.
very good choice. All right, my next pick is going to be. Let's go with the classic here, one that when I see people asking online all the time, what is the best game to take to the beach or play in the sand or things like that? The answer is always one game, at least with hobbyists, and that is Hive. Hive is just a bag of chunky acrylic hexagonal tiles for 2 players. Very chess-like, abstract game that you can play pretty quickly, probably 15 to 30 minutes, I'd say. And it's really fantastic. I mean, you do have to have an appreciation for abstract games because it's very abstract in its feel, very deterministic. No luck involved, but the way it works is you place out your queens early on, your queen bees, these tiles, and you're placing out more of these tiles next to each other, and they're different bugs, but each bug has different movement rules. Like the beetle can climb on top of other bugs, and the ant can crawl around the border, and the spider has, I don't know, that has long legs. It can move a little easier, a little better. And what you're trying to do is surround your opponent's queen bee with all of your bug tiles, and so it's very chess-like in that sense. But this is absolutely one that you could dump out those tiles on sand, flatten the sand a little bit, and play it right then and there. The tiles will be perfectly fine. They're like a Bakelite plastic domino style, so they can get wet, they can get dirty. Doesn't matter. But yeah, this is definitely one you can play anywhere. There's no board required. You start placing them out on a surface. So.
It's true, and because they're hexes, they'll just fit in well with each other. It really is such a brilliant game. It's one that I enjoy. I wish I loved because of just how perfect it is, like you said, for any location, any time frame, any setting. It just, yeah, I'm glad that you're mentioning it because I wouldn't have myself.
Fair enough. What's your next pick?
All right. I kind of have to lock down my last 2 choices here amongst a few different gems, of course. But I'm going to go with one of my favorite of the Dice Tower Essentials games. This is one that was a game released in Japan originally, and then Arcane Wonders and the Dice Tower were able to kind of bring it to the Western U.S. market, and that's called Ito. Ito is...
This is on my list as well, so great pick.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah. This is such a good party game. There's a lot of great party games I've enjoyed recently. So Clover being one of those kind of word-based type games, clue-giving type games and stuff. This one distills it down to just cards, which I think makes it more portable. There's less like funky devices or dry erase. One of the worst feelings is when you pull out a party game. You're like, yeah, this is going to be so exciting. I got the perfect group of people, 8 of us who are going to have a raucous fun time. You open up the box and all the dry erase markers are dried out or something.
Yeah. Brutal.
So Ito is just a clue-giving type of a game, and it just uses cards, right? Everyone's dealt a numbered card between 1 and 100, and then you pick a different card that's a category. So it'll say, like, worst smell is 1 and best smell is 100. And everyone is just cooperatively playing their card face down and giving a clue that you think will help the other people around the table line up those cards in correct number sequence using various smells, or maybe the category is most amazing or the worst fantastical world to live in and the best fantastical world to live in. And the extremes are really fun. The middle numbers can be some of the funniest, right? Where best fantasy world to live in. I was teaching some of the teenagers at my church, and one of them plays this card. He goes like the Kendall suburb of Miami, but with no traffic. You're like, of all the fantasy worlds to pick, the no traffic part makes it like like a notch higher. I was like, that's got to be like a 52. So we line them all up. By the time we flip his card over, it was 53. Like, it was such a dead-on perfect clue.
That's great. Yeah, I love how when people start trying to guess like where your clue should end up on the spectrum of numbers, and then you're like, oh no, I was I misjudged my clue heavily, so they start putting it on the wrong end of the spectrum or way too far away, and so then you start throwing in more qualifiers. Like at first it was like stepping on a Lego, and then they're like, oh, that's not too bad. And then you're like, no, 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 jumping on multiple, very small, very sharp Legos. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess we better go more this way. And then, yeah, it's a funny party game. Great pick. And yeah, I love that we have this wealth of great party games like Fairy and Edo and such that, if you're doing a family reunion or something like that where you're going to be with a lot of people, this is the kind of game you want to bring for sure.
Yep. And I love, like you said, the flexibility of it. A lot of party games kind of lock you in, and Edo's like, have fun with the way you want to have fun with it. And I appreciate that about it so much.
Yeah, it's very, very casual, I'd say, which is kind of what you want usually in a party game. So, okay, well, let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum for my next pick. And instead of a casual party game, we will go with a cutthroat 2-player game. This is one that I know we talked about this actually at Dice Tower West, I believe, a little bit. And I don't think you guys are a huge fan of over the Dice Tower. You haven't even reviewed it yet, which is just downright offensive. But that is Marabunta. Marabunta. This was actually one of my favorite releases from last year. And it's a 2-player game. And it kind of presents itself sort of as a roll and write, where you're rolling dice, and the results you write down with a dry erase marker on a dry erase board, which sounds very roll and writey, but in play it actually feels more like an I split you choose tile placement strategy game, even though there's no tiles to be seen. It's just 3 boards, or I guess a few boards that are puzzled together, attached together, and then 2 markers and like 5 tiles and 5 dice. Very low on the component count. But if you want a very painful, agonizing, brutal 2-player experience, then I'd say Marabunta is the game for you. And yeah, I really appreciate that. I don't know if this was originally Reiner's idea or if this was Space Cowboy's idea, the publisher. The fact that they went with the dry erase marker and boards for the components, because it really reduces the cost, it reduces the footprint of the game, and it makes it feel like it's punching above its weight. And I think it's actually, not many games have a shared dry erase board that people are writing on, and I find it to be a refreshing experience personally, to do that, because it's not too hard. You're writing a 2 or a 0 or an X or whatever onto the board. It's not difficult, but to me, a very refreshing, and I just love a painful 2-player game, and so that one hits the spot for me.
Painful's accurate, and it's not even necessarily what my opponent's doing to me. Like it's mostly having to split those dice myself. Yeah. Yeah, I need to give this one another try before we end up reviewing it.
That's fair.
All right. Well, I mean, solid pick nonetheless. Like that small size box, like it like you said, does feel like it's punching above its weight a bit in terms of having a solid area control game, with a dry erase board and 5 dice, more or less.
Yeah.
My number one travel game, the first one that came to mind, is the one that I've been traveling with the most, I think, bringing to my family, bringing to other people's homes. And this is one of the most classic auction games out there. It's For Sale.
Nice.
It works really well, I think, from the 3 to the 6 player count. Just the small changes make it feel a little different, whether you remove some of the cards or leave them all in there. But the fact that in this game you are auctioning off. If you're playing 5 players, there's 5 houses, there's 5 properties out there for auction at the same time. And as you are bidding higher, you're bidding to basically stay in longer, because as soon as someone passes, they take back half the money that they bid, and they take the lowest card. And so the more that you bid, the more you'll end up paying, because whoever takes the best card of the lot pays the full price. I'm really surprised that more auction games haven't just out and out taken that format and just recycled it and made their own game around it because it's so good at getting a lot of cards out into people's hands quickly. And so then that's the first half of the game. The second half of the game, you're doing a simultaneous reveal game of the cards that you've taken at the beginning, the properties, and you're flipping them for checks. And it's so satisfying. We brought this to a friend's house, some friends of ours from church, and we played it 3 or 4 times in a row because they were just that hooked to it. Not a very big footprint, not a very big table presence, but a lot of looking other people in the eye and being like, I bid 7. You wouldn't. You don't even have that much. Just like that, just that electricity is in the air instead of on the table. And so it's a perfect game for that. I love For Sale.
For Sale is such a classic. Yeah, I think this is, if there's ever an objective bucket list of games that everybody should play as a hobbyist gamer or even a casual gamer, For Sale should be on that list. So I think that's a great pick and one that has stood the test of time. So great. Well, I guess for my last pick, I'll go with one that is unfortunately harder to find, but it is unique. And in the sense that it is a dexterity game that comes in a tiny box. And Mike DeLisio of Dice Tower is a champion of this game, probably more than anyone else. That is Viking Seesaw, baby. This is from Itten Games and their Brick Box. I think that's what it's called.
The Fun Brick series.
Fun Brick, yes. Fun Brick series, thank you. And little rectangular box that slides out the insert, and out comes a teeter-totter seesaw Viking ship with a little flag in the middle, and you stack some cargo tokens in the middle as well, and then everybody gets a handful of knickknacks, kind of like Dro Polter. You got various shapes and sizes and weights, metal cubes and a metal ball, and a very light Viking meeple, and a weirdly shaped yellow gem. And this game is just such a delight. It's been such a hit for me. I took this game home for Christmas a couple years ago to show to my high school friends. We kind of got together, and these high school friends, growing up, we never played board games. Okay, we were very into Smash Bros. That was our go-to, Smash Bros. Yes. And then occasionally Halo, a Halloween, New Halo's Eve, those kinds of celebrations. But for the most part, we played Smash Bros. And even some of them are not big fans of board games, but I busted out Viking Seesaw and we had a delightful time with it. It's just one of those games that, it's very silly. You're stacking pieces onto the high end of the seesaw and hoping that it doesn't tip the opposite way. You didn't put something too heavy on, because then you have to take cargo off and you're trying to get rid of all your pieces first. So then it becomes this challenge of, when do I put out my heavy cubes, my metal cubes, and do I feel safe enough to put this further out on the seesaw just to make it harder for the next person? Do I try to, lay a trap for the next person? But then oftentimes people end up stacking everything close to the middle, and you end up with these really high, ridiculous stacks, and you think, surely this piece is the one that's going to make it tip, and everything's going to fall off, and everything that falls off you have to take into your supply again, and everybody laughs at you. And then when you pull off just a feat of impossible physics, it's just a delight. So Viking Seesaw, it's hard to pick up because Itten is based in Japan, and you'd have to probably pay extra to get it overseas, but hopefully someday they have better distribution in the U.S. and they keep printing this game, because it's one of my favorite dexterity games.
It is a good one. I personally love the Wonder Bowling in that same Fun Brick series. That one is very, could be on this list as well, just as easily. But
yep, same size box. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. There is some magic to Viking Seesaw that makes it better than it should be.
Yeah.
It's just one of those games.
Absolutely. So there's our last pick, and a handful of travel-friendly games from us. So, that's the list for us this time. But I guess to close it out, you did get the chance, like I mentioned, Chris, to try Gingham and Gazebo and even Tic Tac Boom, which we had a bunch of extra, early prototypes of, and we forced you to take a copy and told you that you could not fly home without it. and then when you finally agreed, we returned your belongings to you. But
Indeed.
I'm just curious to hear, and it's okay if any of these games are just not to your tastes or whatever, but I'm curious to hear, do you remember any of those? I think you played each of them at least once, but any experiences or tidbits from playing them at Dice Tower West a few weeks ago?
I've played Tic Tac Boom many a time because it's just one of those. It's another one of those games that is better than it should be objectively. It's just kind of flipping tiles and memory and swap-a-roo and stuff. But I've continued to play it. I brought home the little pre-production copy of it, and it's a joy. And I think that's the thing that I would say is probably the commonality among your new entries in the travel line, is that a lot of them are just kind of a joy. I really like the in Gingham, I don't know what to call it, the King Domino mechanism, right, of turn order selection being intrinsically tied to your action selection or your placement and everything. Just those little touches that elevate a game for me. So even though, they're very travel friendly, they're very small footprint and everything, but they've got some good juicy decisions to them, and they come together in a nice little package there. So that's what I would say about them on my first blush, or in the case of Tic Tac Boom, 18th blush.
Yeah, Tic Tac Boom, I should mention, it's not going to be launched during the Kickstarter, and we are changing the title of the game to Bombastic. So keep that in mind. It'll be available during the Pledge Manager, but yeah, that's basically, we talked about Trio or Nana. That I described Tic Tac Boom as Nana, tic-tac-toe Nana for 2 players, basically, or Trio for 2 players, and kind of hitting on that silly memory element of that Nano has as well. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and I agree. These games, for all the games that we're publishing, sometimes the travel case or whatever can feel like the gimmick of it, but these are actually 3 of my favorite games we've put out in our whole catalog. I personally love to play them and rate them quite highly, but I'm excited for folks to get to see them better. We will have a link to the Kickstarter in the description of this podcast, so feel free to follow that or check it out if it's live after April 22nd. And then there will be pre-orders available after that if you listen to this episode much later. But yeah, that's, this is our official celebration of travel, all things travel friendly today. So I appreciate you coming on, Chris, and sharing some really great games and thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll now remove the Trojan horse from my computer? Yeah.
I am sending the request now to Kyle, and we're good. Yep, you have lived to see another day. But if Chris does show up on a future podcast episode, you'll know that we got him once more, because, we got to
stop clicking random links in my emails, man.
all those phishing emails that we send you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I do have a UPS package out. Oh, I better click on this.
It was easy to guess. Chris at dicetowerwest.com. You got to have a better, more hidden email, I guess, next time. So
I guess so. All right. Thank you, Nick. Thank you again, man. This is great.